Hello and welcome to Amy's Knit Lab. My name is Aimée Gilles and I am the owner and creative director of La Bien-Aimée Yarn based here in Paris, France. This is my YouTube channel and this is where I like to talk about yarn. In the past, I have hosted virtual knit nights and now I'm starting a new series of conversations with knitters. For the next few episodes, I'll be chatting with designers from my new book, Neons and Neutrals, a knitwear collection curated by moi-même, Aimée Gilles. I am joined here today with my communications assistant, Julia, who works here with Aimée. Hi, Julia.
Hi.
How are you, Julia?
I'm really good. It's a good Friday.
Yes, it's Friday. It's Friday here in Paris, and we're excited because we have a long weekend coming to us. And that always means an extra day of knitting over the weekend, which I'm
absolutely
excited about. Julia, what are you working on right now?
I'm not sure I can tell you. Can I tell? No, it's a secret, right?
It's a little secret test knit.
It's like the smallest project ever on the longest cable ever. That's what I'm doing. It's like a two-inch triangle on a 100-centimeter cable.
What yarn are you using?
I'm using Helix and Felix held together in Sansa.
Ooh, pretty.
Ooh, I think the camera is actually catching it pretty well.
Yeah, that's going to make a really nice, like, heathered
it's
fabric.
Just a super subtle marling, which I'm obsessed with. I don't think you'll be able to see anything. No. Anyway, it's going to be pretty.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well,
are you knitting anything? No.
Oh, me? Yeah, I'm knitting something, but I can't show it. It's kind of a secret. So I'll talk about my shawl instead. So I'm going to talk about what I'm knitting because I can't show you what I'm knitting. So I'm going to talk about what I'm wearing, which is the Fragmentation shawl by Stephen West. He made this right before our pop-up in March, and I fell in love with this design. It came out, and this is featuring Twist Nouveau and all of my kind of favorite colors here. But I love the shawl. It's a great shape. This is one of my favorite shapes from Stephen.
It's really lovely. Yeah. And do you know that it's knit? It's not knit like from side to side. You knit one panel, the other panel, the other panel. So you never have more than the bottom of one panel on your needles at the same time, which is great because when you see such a huge shawl, you're like,
it can get a little intimidating. So this is definitely not intimidating. You only have like these little sections to work on. So it's actually kind of a great portable project to bring around with you. So yeah, so today we have two special guests. Let me bring them forward. We have Marie Régnier.
Hi.
Let's add you. Hi, Marie.
Hi. Glad to be here.
And we have Lotta Löthgren from Sweden, right?
Hi. Nice to be here.
Welcome.
Almost in Paris. Thank you.
Welcome. We're super happy to have a little chat with you. These are two designers that I collaborated with in my new book called Neons and Neutrals. Marie is the designer of the Stries hat. Let me grab it really quick. Right here. So this is the original sample that was photographed in the book, along with the secondary sample. And Lotta is the designer of the Klänge scarf, which we have right here. Beautiful. I would put it on, but it'll make me overheat because it's really warm in my office today. So welcome. So I thought I would start the conversation out with Marie.
Okay.
And just to say, later after these interviews, guys, we have a special guest. We have two test knitters who are joining us. And they are the test knitters that tested the patterns by Marie and Lotta. So we'll have that happening a little bit later in the segment. Marie, could you please introduce yourself and tell us who taught you to knit?
Of course. Hi, my name is Marie. I live in France in a small village in the middle of the wood near Paris. And I'm amongst a lot of things, a knitwear designer, but my daily job is bank account counselor. I've been Spanish teacher when I was younger, and now I'm knitwear designer.
Wonderful, wonderful. So who taught you to knit?
I've learned to knit when I was 10 years old, and it was actually my teacher. We have this kind of end of the year spectacle. C'est ça, spectacle, c'est ça?
Show?
Yes, show. And I had to be this kind of old gossipy lady that was knitting in the park, criticizing everybody. So for the sake of the scene, she just taught me how to knit and purl. And I had to learn all the other technique by myself. So it was in the mid-90s. We didn't have internet or good resources, and it was so hard because nobody knits in my family. So it's how I learned it. And then I've been in Spain because I have Hispanic language and culture degree. So the last year I was studying in Valencia, Spain, and I found this kind of small academia that was giving pattern making classes. And so yes, I dive into it because I've always wanted to do clothes, but I didn't feel confident enough to just jump right in and do it. So having this structural background helped me to make my design, but it was just for myself. I was just knitting for my family, clothing my own clothes, and didn't really use it. I came back in France, and long story short, I was tired of teaching small children, and I changed my ma voix, my how to say
path.
Yes, and I make another degree in finance and came into the bank. I stopped at all knitting, crocheting, embroidery, everything because I was too tired and stressful. And I took back my needle when I was pregnant of my daughter. It was 2015. And yes, I was doing things for her and for my son when he was born, but it was just a hobby. I didn't plan to make a living or even publishing my knitting designs. But things get a little bit tough. My son is actually, he has some genetical disease. So I had to stop to work. I need to stress less and have some time to relax. And it totally helped me to go into it. And I start to make real design, if I can say so, in 2020, 2001. And it helps me to relax, to have an income because I can't work anymore. And it's a good thing, I think.
That's also wonderful. Wow, what a path you've been on with your career in knitting. It's wonderful that you're able to make knitwear design kind of, is it your full-time job now?
For now, but I will be at the bank next year, so.
Okay. Well, you've been pretty prolific because you kind of came onto my radar because you responded to my Neons and Neutrals call for submissions. And then I kind of looked you up on Ravelry and I saw that you have been published in Laine Magazine, Making Stories, Pom Pom, Making, Early Bird Knits. So what's it like working with all of these publications?
It's just amazing. First of all, because I don't speak English like my mother tongue. It's not something I just know it because I've been studying at school and had some English speaker boyfriends, but it feels even more special in that way. And it gives me the opportunity to really dare to make my ideas coming into life. Because when we are doing things by ourselves, small designer, but nobody knows, to be honest, and we can't, we don't have the support, the technical team behind us. So having some publication is a good way to start, a good way to dare, and a good way to test ourselves as a maker. Because we are all alone in our small office and we don't really know what value what we create as in the real life. And yes, it helps me to dare and try things that I wouldn't do if it wasn't for the sake of publication.
Wow, I love that. That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
I can't see Aimée moves anymore. Okay.
Ooh, I'm moving a little bit. I think you got a little frozen, but
you're frozen. Oh,
there you go. You pop back on. Internet is a little unstable, you guys.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about your design from Neons and Neutrals. So this is the Stries hat. I'm going to unfold it so we can see the full length. So it's a pretty long hat. It's got a nice big brim. And I'm going to show a photograph here in just a second once Marie starts talking about photos from the book of the hat. Can you tell me what was your inspiration for the name Stries and what does it mean?
Stries means in French, it's a French word to describe a type of lines. They can be right, they can be more sneaky. It's just like, for example, when you go or you watch deserts sand, the wind make a pattern, and this kind of lines can be called stries. And in my design, I like lines, vertical or horizontal one, and this one is not an exception. When I was thinking of this design, I was actually working for another design. It's a cable cardigan called Amadou, and it just used this line as in stries to separate all the motifs. And I was thinking that it was a good way to make a hat with it because it's an easy to remember pattern and it's reversible. You always need the same stitch pattern, but the wrong side when you fold the brim is a little bit different from the wrong side at the top of the hat.
Yep.
It was a nice way to enhance a stitch pattern in a yarn.
I love that. I love that when we realized that too, after we received the sample, that folding up the brim, it was just slightly different than the rest of the hat, and it just made it that much special. Can you talk to me a little bit about what it was like holding 2 or 3 strands of yarn at a time for the design?
It's fast, and I love things that go fast. That's awesome. Because it's knitted in less than 3 days if you do it consistently, or maximum a week if you do it now and then. And it's so satisfying to finish a knit. And this hat is just such, for me, a perfect palette cleanser. I was working on a cable cardigan using all these stitches, and I need something to relax. And the hat just came at the perfect time. And I love, it was fun to hold all this yarn. And as it is soft yarn, there is mohair, single, and 1 fingering wool yarn. It doesn't hurt. It's so soft and very nice to work.
Yeah, it creates a very unique fabric. So we worked with a French yarn company called Maison Corlaine. Can you tell us what it was like working with the fisherman yarn from Maison Corlaine?
I was working for the fishermen for the previous design. That's why when you were telling me to give some brand that I would like to work with, I think about her because, you know, is this Laine the fisherman? And I was working this design. This is a sample of the design. And I knew that it had a great stitch definition and a nice halo that would work perfectly for a squishy hat. And even if it's rustic wool, it's not scratchy at all. I'm pretty sensitive, but you can feel it. So it was just perfect for the stitch definition and to prevent the hat to stretch while blocking it. And it was just, she does amazing color, amazing fiber as you, and it was nice to pair it with your lovely colors. It was awesome.
I really loved your suggestion of Maison Corlaine because we brought together 2 yarn houses from France for one project, and that was really special. And I love that. So here's a fun question. If you were to knit one design from neons and neutrals, which one would it be?
It would be Aimée because this thing is just amazing. There is line, and I love line, and it's just a perfect project to use all the special skein we have, but we don't have enough to do something else with. And yes, I would really like to do it, but it's such an impressive design, statement piece, and yes, I would like to do this one.
Wow, I love that. Is there anything on your needles right now? Any exciting projects or something that maybe you can sneak peek us?
Everything is secret. I can speak.
Oh, I think we got a little frozen here. We were laughing too hard and we broke the internet. Hold on.
It took 4 people. Who knew?
See if we can get Marie to pop back on. Oh, is she frozen for you guys? She's
yes.
Yes, she's frozen.
Sometimes, Marie, sometimes it's just a matter of comment on dit, fermer ta vidéo et la remettre
Yeah.
Moi, quand je freeze, je clique arrêter la vidéo et ensuite je la remets. Et en général, ça marche.
Let's see if she pops back in. This is the great moment to do like a little knitting interlude. I just sneak peeked you guys something. There you go. Did you see that? That's all you get to see.
That was sneaky.
Very sneaky, but it's sort of, it's a bit like a camouflage because you have the shawl on and then you have the in the background.
Exactly.
And then the scarf.
It melts into all the pinks melt together.
Well, Marie, we must have unstable internet. She's just popped off. Okay, hold on. She just jumped back into the Zoom. So when we debut this will be happening on YouTube. You guys, we're filming all of this on Zoom right now. So we're going to wait till Marie gets reconnected back and we'll just chat a little bit with Lotta. Lotta, what is that situation behind you? What is this like wall of beauty?
The situation behind me. This is actually my brand new yarn shop that I'm sitting in. I'm opening for the first time tomorrow. So it's been a week and a month and yeah, it's been quite hectic. But so this wall behind me, this is like basically 5 meters full of yarn.
Wow.
Heaven.
That's incredible. Oh my gosh. I love that.
This is an old water mill in the nearest village. I live out in the forest. So this is our nearest little around 2,000 people living here, I think. So it's still very small, but it's pretty close to our nearest big cities, or big city in Swedish, not in French terms, or global terms for that matter, but it's quite near. So I hope a lot of people will find their way out here during the weekend when I open up. So it's very exciting. I just need to make price tags for everything. So that's my Friday.
Good luck with that. I thought, well, since we're waiting, we can always bring Marie back into the fold again a little bit later as she's getting settled in. So I thought that we could just start our session, our conversation together. So let me just officially introduce you. This is Lotta Löthgren. She is based in Sweden and she is the designer of Klänge from my book. And let me grab Klänge real quick. I have it here.
And here.
So it's a gorgeous scarf. When this submission came in for the book, I immediately zoned in because I first was going through my head, what kind of pieces do I want in the book? And I definitely wanted a scarf. A scarf was something that I needed. I wear scarves all the time. I feel like it's a super practical thing. And, you know, when you're in Paris, you always have to have a little écharpe or scarf around your neck, right? So I thought Klänge could be the perfect option for that. Lotta, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe tell us who taught you to knit.
Yeah, so my name is Lotta and I live in the southeast parts of Sweden in a very small village in the forest with my family and our pack of dogs and chickens. So it's very much countryside and forest for me. And I am a knitwear designer and writer and yarn shop owner. And this is my brand new yarn shop. So that's what I do. I walk around the forest and I knit a lot and I think about yarn and I sell yarn and I mean, if I could eat yarn, I would.
I think you're in good company. I know that. I feel like Julie and I could, all those words you just said, that's us too. Yeah, we're like that too.
Except we don't walk in the forest, but otherwise.
I need to try walking in the forest and knitting. That sounds actually very relaxing.
Yes.
Yes.
Or you would just sort of fall over because it's branches and rocks and things on the ground.
Maybe walk a while, sit down, knit a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Just sort of lean on a big rock and sit down and knit and listen to the birds. That
sounds incredible.
Yeah.
So tell me, what does knitting bring to your life today?
So yeah, should I first go with who taught me how to knit?
Yeah, so let's start with who taught you to knit and then what it brings for you today.
Yeah, super. So all Swedish children learn how to knit in school. We have textile crafts. Yeah. So we have we have wood and metal crafts for 1 semester, and then we have textile crafts the other semester, and that's awesome. So I learned how to knit first in school. We were supposed to knit Lovikka mittens and on double pointed needles and a thick wool yarn. So I knitted one, and it was of course awful because I was 11 or 10, maybe 12. So it was uneven and full of holes and everything. And then I made the second one, and that was much better, of course, because I had learned something. And my teacher, she thought I had asked my mother or grandmother to knit it for me. So that's my first sort of knitting experience. This is,
Wow.
You couldn't have done this. Yeah, that was awful. But and I didn't knit as a kid, and my mother knits, and both my paternal and maternal grandmother knitted and knits from time to time, but craft is not a big part of my growing up, or wasn't. So I sort of consider myself, when I started knitting, I was an adult. I was actually working in a yarn shop in 2007 and 8, I think. And of course, I mean, if there suddenly pops up a gorgeous yarn shop in your town, you have to learn how to knit. So I did that. So I guess maybe YouTube and Knitty taught me how to knit.
Knitting,
Because Knitty
yes.
was like, when I discovered Knitty, that was like, yeah. And then of course Ravelry and everything there. So I always knitted from English patterns. It was hard for me to start knitting from Swedish patterns and translating my own patterns into Swedish. So yeah, I think, thank you, internet.
Yeah, really. Thank you, internet. I mean, my knitting level jumped exponentially as soon as there were like knitting tutorials on YouTube.
Yeah.
Before that, there was a lot of like written tutorials on blogs. Do you remember that? Like reading other knit blogs, and I would learn like, I don't know, like super stretchy bind off and things like that. And then Knitty came around, and when you said that, I was like instantly brought back to a time before Ravelry when the new Knitty would arrive, and we would refresh the webpage to wait for it to come up. Yeah.
It's just the best thing.
Yeah. It was such a great time for knitting.
Yeah. So hey,
yes, please.
Yeah. Well, I knit a lot. I mean, I knit for hours every day. It's the first thing I do in the morning and the last thing I do before I go to bed. So it's sort of, it's of course a sort of structure for me, but it also brings, I think knitting is basically everything you might want from a hobby. Knitting can give you. It can be fun and challenging, but it can also be very relaxing and meditative. And you can learn new things if you want to, because there are always new techniques and new stuff to learn, but you don't have to, because as soon as you're on a sort of basic level, you can do so many amazing things with those skills. And I love that it can be both and.
Yeah, it's I feel the same way. Everything you said, I can relate to completely. I remember the exciting time when you were learning new techniques, you know, and like, I remember my second project was a sock, and no one told me that was too hard. Like, I was just like, whatever, I'm going to knit a sock. And I knit a Jaywalker sock. It was the tightest sock I've ever knit. You can't even get it on your foot. It like stands up by itself. But I was so proud, you know, I was like, I knit this thing. But yeah, knitting is wonderful. And even today, like, I've been knitting for over 20 years. I'm still learning stuff. I'm still seeing new techniques come out. And I love that. I love that how people can still continue to innovate with new techniques of knitting, just doing knits and purls.
Exactly. And using string and needles.
Yes. Yeah.
That's so special.
It's really special. So you're also a hand dyer.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell us about your yarn company?
Yes. So I actually started out plant dyeing a few years ago. And I sort of cleared out a little dye studio at home in my garage, where I went out. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna escape the sun a bit here. So I would go out and forage materials to dye with, and also buy materials, because you can dye sort of yellow, and maybe beige and more yellow with the things that grow where I live. So adding a bit more color is fun. And I did that for a few years. And then I sort of had this idea that I wanted to be able to be more consistent in my dyeing, and that would mean either scaling up the plant dyeing business a whole lot more than I was prepared to do, or experimenting with acid dyes. So that's what I started doing, and I learned so much from Petra of Fru Valborg. It's another Swedish hand dyer. And then I set up a studio and started dyeing, and it's so much fun. And I think I was a bit naive because I thought, when you plant dye, you have organic materials, and it's very you never know quite what color you are going to get, and it's very fun and a lot of chemistry. And I sort of thought that acid dyes, it's just pigment. So you can just decide what color you want, and of course it's not that simple.
No,
it's a whole science in itself, and I love that. It's so much to learn and so exciting. So I have a small yarn line. It's on my left side here. It's called Sägen, which is a Swedish word for a very specific type of folk tale that has it's often a very it comes from a very specific place. It's like someone knew someone way back who knew someone who happened to meet this strange person or strange noise. And they're always kind of ominous, like there's always something threatening. It's often the devil in disguise. And there's also something to learn from these stories. And I'm super fascinated by the folklore in them and the specific type of storytelling. So that was what I wanted to name the yarn line. And then the colorway names are all from different stories, different folk stories.
Oh, love that. I was wondering. Yeah, that's great. That's great. So let's talk a little bit about your design from neons and neutrals. I'm going to pop up a photo really quick here so we can have a look at it while you talk about it. This is your scarf that's called Klänge. And while we were working on this process with you, Lotta, we realized that you kind of created this stitch. Like we were going back and forth about it, and then we did some research on our end, and I started asking everyone I knew. I'd show it to them, and they were like, "No, I've never seen that before." So how did you come up with this stitch?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I just sat down with my needles and the yarn, and I started experimenting. I love different textures and using slip stitches to create different surfaces on a stockinette base. And so I was basically just experimenting with different kinds of, what happens if I knit two in this color and then I purl one in this color, and then on the other row I changed it up a bit. And this is such a it may look advanced, but it's such a simple stitch. It's basically, I've been thinking a lot about what kind of stitch this is. And it's basically a corrugated rib, right?
Oh,
Yes.
But you keep the floats to the back of the work on each row. So on the wrong side, the float comes on the right side, and on the right side, the float comes on the wrong side. So it's a very simple 2-row stitch pattern that creates this very interesting texture.
Very interesting texture, which is reversible. So for like a scarf, that's perfect because there's really not a wrong side or a right side.
Wow.
And we just went ahead. The working name that we had while we were working on the book, where I think we're calling it ladder stitch or something.
Yes.
Yeah. And we knew we needed something a little bit more elegant. And I think Klänge stitch is perfect.
So that's the name of the stitch now, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I refer it to that name. While I was out on tour, I had a lot of knitters who were like, "What is this? Is this like a brusamine or something like that?" But it is true when you said that it's a corrugated ribbing. Yes, it is.
Or at least a semi, because you also make just knits and pearls with the main color Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very simple, at least. However, it's
simple and effective. And what I
Yeah.
love is that we use mostly a semi-solid colored here. We did use a slightly variegated Felix lace weight wool here. But for this sample, I used a variegated yarn. This is one of our colors from the Miyazaki collection called Fujimoto. You can really see here along the I cord how variegated it is. And I think that this is a great pattern to showcase some of those fun variegated yarns that we have in our stash, and putting it against a neutral background. It really shows all the colors in the yarn. And I love that. And so people were super excited about that. And you don't need a lot of yarn for it because it's just a scarf, you know?
Yes, and you can, I mean, the length is so simple to adjust. You just keep knitting until you're happy with it.
Have you made a mini version of this? Because I was just thinking about it today. I was like, a mini, like, can you
Maybe
imagine,
that
like,
would be a good thing to do, sort of. Yeah,
like a little mini Klänge, you know, and you can just tie it and have it like be chic, maybe a little, maybe not so wide. I don't know.
no, it's like a libertine sort of
Yes.
tie, maybe
yes.
even. That sounds nice. That might be a thing.
Especially the little pointy ends would be super fun,
exactly.
you know.
Pointy ends are so chic and so unique
Yes.
looking.
Yeah.
I really, really love that. I really love that. Alrighty, so if you could knit one design from neons and neutrals, which one would it be?
I would knit Videira by Maisa Tomikawa. It's I mean, this is something that I love. That I mean, I love sort of going outside the box, and it's I wouldn't have been able to design it, and I find that very fascinating because it's so gorgeous with all the garter stitch and the blocks of color and the super wide sleeves and the pockets and the hood, and I just love everything about it, and it looks so soft and comfortable. So I would definitely knit that.
We just spoke with Mesa yesterday, and she told us all about the process for creating Videira, and I'm just so impressed in how she incorporated all of everything all at the same time, because it is all knit in one piece too, and I'm just like, what? You know, but it's so incredible. But yeah, I totally agree. I'm already thinking about making another one because I was like, I just need another one in another color. It's such a great like interseason jacket to wear. Like right now in Paris, we don't know if it's cold or if it's hot, but it's like the perfect thing to have. And yeah. So what kinds of little things do you have on the needles right now? Are you knitting anything that you can show us, or do you have any new colorways that you want to sneak peek to us?
Well, I am just launching next week, or this will be a few weeks ago, but I'm getting ready to launch a new sock yarn. I'm gonna show you.
Ooh,
Exciting. So by the time this comes out, the sock yarn will already be released.
Perfect. We can link directly to it.
Yes. Okay, let's see. The sun is everywhere now. My cord is not long enough. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's so nice that you have so much sunlight in your shop, though.
It's a good thing. Yes.
It's lovely. So, okay, here we go. This is the little mini skeins of my new sock yarn base that's called Rättatosk. And Rättatosk is the, if you're familiar with Norse mythology and you know the world tree, Yggdrasil, is sort of
but yeah.
That incorporates the whole world. And in that tree, we have a tiny squirrel that runs up and down with gossip and telling everything from the snake in the bottom to Odin's ravens, and just spreading the word about what's going on in the world, in the worlds. And this squirrel is named Rättatosk. So I think that's a great name for a sock yarn. And it's a 100% Corriedale yarn, untreated and with a high twist. So it's very soft and very fun to work with and dye on.
Wow,
so
I'm excited to try that. I love Corriedale fiber. So Corriedale sock yarn sounds like a dream. So
it is. But my biggest thing that I've been working on for a very long time now is my upcoming book that will be published in August. So what I can sneak peek is this, because I also of course have La Bien-Aimée yarn in it. So this is a vest called the Woodpecker vest that's going to be in the book, and it's knit in curry worsted in my favorite color rust. That is so pretty. So it has a bit of texture and a bit of garter stitch and a bit of cables, and it's a very everyday friendly piece that you can just throw on any outfit basically and just get an extra layer of warmth.
I love that. I'm so excited. We were just talking about this, like vests.
Yeah.
This is my year for vests. Like I only want to wear vests, and like I'm struggling right now knitting some sleeves on a sweater. I'm like, how, and I think about it in my head, like, how can I transform this into a vest?
And do you remember, Aimee, when Lotta showed us the idea for this vest? That was a while ago, and Aimee was obsessed with it. I can't tell you. You just kept talking about it all the time.
I'm so glad you like it. It's not very advanced, and of course you don't have to go to Sleeve Island, which is a good thing, I think.
I love that. If I can avoid Sleeve Island, I'm all for it. So I'm all for it. So tell us when your book is coming out.
It's coming out by the end of August, and it's published by Laine. So it's going to be patterns and photos, and also essays from basically from my life in the forest and observations of what's going on if you look closely at the very, very little things in the forest and in the natural world. So it's been an amazing thing to work on this book, but it's going to be even more amazing to finally see it out in the real world. So
that's incredible.
That's what I'm hyper excited about right now.
Oh, me too. I'm so excited. It sounds like such a lovely book. All right, so I see that Marie was able to come back and join us. I'm going to bring her about forward and bring her back. Hi, Marie.
I'm so sorry for my awful connection in the middle of the wood.
It's okay. It's okay, because I thought I would bring you forward so that we could rediscuss. I want to go back to the question when I asked you, like, what would you knit from neons and neutrals?
Yes, I would knit the Aimée cardigan because it's just a statement piece and it's perfect to use all the precious skein we have to combine them and make this piece of art. And I think she created the stitch pattern with all the earth shape like bread.
Yes, it does. It has a heart shape to it, definitely.
Just amazing. I would have loved to create something like that.
Well, we would love to see your version of Zhao Mai. That would be incredible.
It should be pink, I think. I'm always
You definitely have an approval sign from Julia for that. I don't know if we got this far because we got disconnected before, but I wanted to know, like, what are you knitting right now? Like, what kinds of projects are you working on? I think I remember you saying you had a whole bunch of secret projects going on.
So the only thing I can show you, it's the cardigan I'm knitting for my daughter. And as I'm a cable addict, it is a cable knit.
Whoa.
Leftovers of yellow yarn I have in my stash because I was buying a lot of yarn for babies, and so I don't have balls enough to make the right size, so I'm combining them.
Is this an original design?
Yes.
Wow, I love that. I love that.
Thank you. So actually it was just a swatch for a design idea, and most of the time she's my knitting proof child, I can say so. When I have
a cobaye.
Yes, when I have an idea for a design and it will be a lot of work and I have to figure out the shape, the stitch, I make a small one for her. And this one was just at the beginning, this part, and then it's just fit her and I keep knitting it.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I do that too sometimes when I'm working through a design. I'll knit a miniature version.
Yes.
But I'm talking like
this.
just to kind of figure out the shapes and stuff like that. But that's so cool. That's so cool. Maybe I should think about doing that. I could knit a size for Alix. My daughter is 13, and then,
she's very tall though.
She is very tall. But yeah, I love that. I love that you do that. So I wanted to ask both of you, Lotta and Marie, where can we find you online? Lotta?
You can find my yarn shop at Elk Market Yarn on Instagram and Facebook, and my personal account is on elk.market, and on Ravelry, of course, under my name, Lotta Löthgren.
Perfect. We'll include all that information down in the comments. And Marie, where can we find you online?
You can find me on Instagram at Marie Tricot, on my personal web shop, Early Bird Knits, and on Ravelry under Marie Régnier.
Great. Wonderful. All right. So while I have you, I'm going to change the format a little bit, and I have 3 funny questions to ask you. If you were a stitch or a knitting technique, which one would you be? Lotta, I'll let you start.
I wanted to say that I would like to be some sort of textured pattern or a slip stitch pattern, something that looks more complicated on the outside than it actually is. I think that's a good that's a good description. My husband suggested I might be a pearl stitch, which is very funny because in English that sounds cute that I'm a pearl, but in Swedish we don't have a specific word for a pearl stitch. We use the right and wrong side. So a knit stitch is a right stitch and a pearl stitch is the wrong stitch. So I guess I could be a wrong pearl too.
And how about you, Marie?
I would be cable knitting, obviously.
Cable knitting.
Yes, obviously.
Do you cable without a cable needle?
Of course, it changed my life. Always.
I love that. Love that. All right. So what is your stitch arch nemesis or the villain in your knitting story? You can also say you don't have one because maybe you don't. What do you think, Lotta?
I used to say that I'm a self-appointed brioche-phobe because I don't do brioche. Very unpopular opinion. I don't really like the fabric. It's just too squishy for me. And you know, if I like the
never heard that
broken rib and you know that kind of fabric, it's just the brioche is just, or maybe I'm sort of just envious of everyone who can do it perfectly, because I mean I started doing it and it's smooth and then I drop a stitch and I just want to die. You know,
It's
I try to
true.
stay away from knits that makes me want to die.
But you know what? I went on YouTube and found a video that taught me how to pick up drop stitches in brioche, and it changed my mind about brioche. So
there's hope even for a brioche-phobe like me.
yeah. Hopefully. What about you, Marie? What's your stitch arch nemesis or the villain in your knitting story?
Color work. I hate to have tangled yarn. It just make me mad. It's just like I'm wasting my time trying to detangle everything. I might have the wrong way to do it, but I'm an English knitter, and having the continental yarn at the left and the English style at the I can't. No, it's painful.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. And what would you consider to be your knitting superpower? What do you think?
I go first?
Sure.
Yeah. I think my knitting superpower is that I learned in my knitting to not get hung up on small mistakes. And that's a very good thing for life in general. It's easier in knitting than in life, but you know, if I find a mistake way up in a yoke of a sweater that I'm almost done with, I would never rip back and knit it again. I would just say, you know, I'm not perfect and this sweater is not perfect because there's a mistake and that's how it's supposed to be. So I think it makes knitting life a lot easier for me.
I love that. I'm trying to teach my daughter that right now. She's a new knitter, and every time she makes a mistake, she's like, I have to unknit. And I'm like, you know, you really don't. You could just keep going. But she's at that point where she can't deal with it right now. So I'll let her be. But that is really good advice for life too. Yeah. And what about you, Marie? What is your knitting superpower?
I hesitate. Maybe knitting without knitting cable without cable needle, but I'm really good at reading my knits. When I make some mistake, I can't exactly see by watching the fabric where I miss it. And I think this is very useful. And it helps me to not have the shards on the eyes every time, because when I see the fabric, I know what I did the row before.
Yeah.
It's this one.
Power.
Yeah, that is a really good superpower. That is a learned superpower. We can all learn that. Yeah. That's wonderful. Well, thank you, Lotta and Marie. We're now going to switch over to our special guests, which are your test knitters. Let me bring them forward here.
Hi.
Hi. So Julia's going to take over this portion to ask our special guests some questions about being a test knitter.
So hi, Ulrike. Hi, Gwen.
Hi.
It's really lovely to meet you and to talk to you. I'm gonna start with talking to Gwen. So you tested Stries for Marie. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us who taught you to knit?
My name is Gwen. I live in the Netherlands with my husband and my 10-year-old daughter. This is her room. I first started to learn crochet. My mother taught me some when we were on holiday and my daughter was a baby, and I wanted a hobby I could pick up and put down quickly. And I always wanted to learn how to knit, but I couldn't make it work. It didn't click in my head. And then a friend of mine who was a crocheter but also a knitter told me there was this thing called continental knitting. And that really changed everything for me, because you hold the yarn in your left hand just as with crochet. And then I was off with a flying start.
Yes, it's true. I never thought about it that way. That's a very good point. And how did you become a test knitter?
Well, at first I was a crochet tester for Rachel Carmona from Cypress Textiles. Maybe you've heard of her. And I tested some things for her book she wrote a few years ago. And I really liked helping people with their designs and giving them feedback on what they were doing. And when I taught myself to knit with YouTube, because no one taught me, I just taught myself. I found someone asking me to, well, not me, but asking for testing a hat, a simple colorwork hat. And I just jumped on the opportunity and said, well, I can do it. I'll try. And that's how everything just started. And I have tested for Ola Ogunlolu, All About Handmade, Samantha Guerin, Sophie Ochira. I tested 4 times for her. I tested this
wow.
sweater for my daughter, but I also have 3 other sweaters by her. I tested for Skeindeer once. I tested for Tati Lutzak from Tati's Knit Garden once. I tested for Salt and Stone Knit once. For Marie Tricot, of course. And right now I am testing a sweater for Vera Valimaki.
Oh.
The Camellia sweater.
Wow.
Exciting.
Also cables, Marie.
Why do you like test knitting?
I have a disease called MS. And it made me not able to work anymore. I used to be a primary school teacher, and well, I'm home a lot now. So for me, test knitting is a way to communicate with other people and talking with other people, and it's a window to the world, I think. Internationally.
Yeah. And you're a part of that community of test knitters.
Yes.
You're all doing the same thing at the same time.
Yes, and especially with Sophie Ochira, her test knits are always done on WhatsApp, and you get to talk to people a lot and share things, and that's just a lot of fun.
Love that.
So let's talk about your Stries hat.
Yes.
Can you tell us what yarn you chose?
Well, I'm a knitter on a budget. I do have some hand-dyed yarns, but I mostly knit with yarns like Drops, BC. I even have some Stylecraft here from my crochet days. I'm knitting up my stash, a blanket for my daughter. So this is knit with Drops brushed alpaca, because I cannot do mohair.
Nice.
So I
like a lot of people.
Yes. West yarn, she's a Dutch hand dyer, so there is some hand dyed yarn in here, and some knit crate yarn, Uru yarn it's called. they are no more, unfortunately. So yes,
Oh, that's lovely.
yes, and the top part is the knit crate yarn, and then I have the West yarn is right here with all the speckles.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the West yarn with the drops.
Yeah.
Yarn.
Brushed up
Yeah.
back up. Yeah.
It's my
I love how
husband's
fuzzy the
favorite.
brim looks.
Sorry?
With the brush. I love how fuzzy the brim looks with the brushed alpaca. That's
Mhm.
a really cool look. Yeah.
It's my husband's favorite hat. He wears it daily.
Because it's super cozy. It looks
Yes.
super cozy. Mm. And so can you tell us a little bit about what you've been knitting recently? Is there anything you want to share with us?
I am knitting from, I have bought 2 advent calendars last 2 years, and I am knitting the Friesland blanket by Janice Hope Knits.
Wow.
So color work, that's one of my superpowers. And of course I have the test knit
Yes,
for
that
the
is knit for
Vera.
Vera.
And this is, I am trying to knit up all my acrylics because I don't really like acrylic yarn anymore. But it's really great for crocheting and crochet blankets, but this one
Yes.
is knitted.
Oh, yeah.
How fun.
So I just use all the scraps that I have. It's not a lot anymore, but you can see it's getting big now.
Mm.
Oh. How long have you been working on that blanket?
Not that long because it's really fun. Maybe a month, maybe
Oh,
2.
wow. You made such good progress in a month. Wow.
They're quite fast. It's DK weight.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, these 3 things are
Yeah.
my main, things right now. Yes.
Those are great projects. Your first one is impressive.
This
oh my
one.
gosh, yes.
I keep them on barbecue skewers so I can grab them together later.
I was wondering, I was trying to count in my head. Is she using
Yeah.
6 needles?
I make them on magic loop with what you call it? Circulars.
Yeah.
And then I put them on barbecue skewers and I spray them wet and block them, let them dry.
Yeah.
And then I can just stack them together like this.
Oh,
Oh my goodness.
wow.
How many do you oh my goodness.
Oh.
So
beautiful.
what's the construction to put them together?
Sorry, come again?
What construction do you use to put them together?
I don't know yet. I'm not that strong in the pattern. I just knit the ones that don't have borders. And then you have to put them on hold. So that's what I do. And then there are some of these hexagons that do have borders.
Ooh.
But I haven't knitted one of those yet.
Mhm.
So I'll see it when I get there.
We'll have to
we
check in
link
with
to
you
the
later.
pattern and
Yeah. We'll have to check in with you later to see what the how your progress is going.
yes, my gosh. That's incredible. Okay, thank you, Gwen. I'm gonna talk to Ulrike and then we'll ask you the questions, the funny questions together. Hi, Ulrike. So you
Hi,
tested
Julia.
Klänge
Hi.
for Lotta.
Yes.
And Lotta said you're really good friends and you live close to each other and you test a lot of her patterns.
Yes. It's so lovely.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from?
Yes, I'm my name is Ulrike, but it's a German name. The Swedish is Ulrika with an A.
Okay.
Yes. I live in Växjö since 15 years almost with my daughter, Julia, and a lot of dogs.
How many is a lot of dogs?
No, we had 3, but now there are only 2.
Oh.
But I still think of her. Yes. And I have been knitting for many years, but like, you know, it's going like this. Yes, for periods. But I started when I was a teenager.
Did you also learn in school?
Yes, this is the same, Lovikka. Lovikka, knitten, yes. That was fun, but it didn't make me do anymore. So it came a little bit later. It was like I think it was in the 90s when the mohair was very popular. Yeah, and I knitted these very, very large sweaters in happy colors.
Fun.
Yeah. So I'm glad it's back.
Yeah, of course. Everything always
is-
comes back anyway, right?
Yes.
All
Yeah, it
trends
does.
cycle back through again. Look,
Yeah.
Bougain's coming back. What's going to be next? I wonder if we'll ever get to that like fun fur. I remember this
It's
from
coming.
my childhood. I hope that never comes back, but
But I think the big intarsia super colorful sweaters are really back right
Yeah.
now. So yeah. And so you test knit for Lotta, but do you test knit for other designers maybe, or?
I've been test knitting for Stephen West.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Lotta is it started with Lotta.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is that I hate knitting socks. So whenever I have to finish the second sock, I'm like, Ulrike, could you please knit this sock? Because I don't want to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's so fun. I love to do it.
But that's
No, I
very
think
nice of you.
It was Instagram, actually, that made me. I think you wrote that you needed and you wanted anyone to just write a letter for you.
yep.
So I wrote you. And since then, it's a couple of years now. But I'm a little bit social media frightened, or I'm not so,
Oh.
but I'm learning.
Sure, and not everyone has to be, super into that. It's fine. I think
That's why we're doing these videos.
Yeah.
To use YouTube and to kind of move away. I mean, we're gonna keep using Instagram and things like that, but like, yeah, just to make it a little bit more accessible to people.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
because
just so nice to be able to sit down, talk to people, even though we're not in the same place. I feel like we're getting to know each other,
Mhm.
for real.
Yes,
so.
that's also learning. I think that's I've learned almost everything from internet or
Yes.
YouTube.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so let's talk about your Klänge. Do you have your
Yes.
Klänge with you?
Yes, I have my Klänge here.
Oh, that is pretty.
Oh, I love the contrast.
Can you see?
Lovely.
Wow.
It's
What yarn did you
You
use?
can
Look
see,
at that
it's-
rainbow.
yeah, the main color is Lotta's,
Yes.
and the other yarn is I had in my stash. It's one mohair, and that's from Mad Tosh
Mhm.
that I have been had for many years, and from Hedgehog Fibers. It's called Foam, and it's a skinny single
Oh,
that I
okay.
put together.
Nice.
It's like a bonbon.
Mm,
It really
yeah.
It was so
looks like a rainbow just
Yes.
like
Yeah.
right here looking at this, it just looks like this rainbow going across
Yeah.
this neutral background. I love how that came out.
And it completely
It was
shows,
so
Aimee,
fun.
what you were
so fun to
saying.
knit.
Yeah. And
And
about using a
just-
color like Fujimoto.
Mhm.
Oh, it was. Yeah, I just waited for the next color section to come. Oh, what's it
Yeah.
gonna be
that's
like
what's
here
so fun.
and here?
Yeah.
So it was very, very, very fun to knit. It's very satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I love it.
It's
I love
it's
that.
a deer scarf. Yeah.
And so do you have anything you've been knitting recently that you'd like to share with us?
May I, Lotta?
Oh, sorry, which one are we talking about now?
Oh.
I'm talking about Ulven.
Yes, please show Ulven.
We want to
Let's
know.
See if we can. It's a sweater that Lotta, you recently published it, didn't you?
Yes, last week.
Last week, yes.
Yeah, very
But I'm still test knitting.
Well, it's fine. Once you have one full sleeve
Oh,
anyway.
I love that
who
detail on the
cares?
sleeve.
Yeah, do you see?
Yeah, very cool.
And whoa, and the same is here.
In the body.
Yes,
What
I see
yarns
my
are you
fingers.
using?
That's Lotta's yarn. That's from your new collection. Say again.
It's actually the same as for Klänge.
Yes.
So
Mm,
it's the heavyweight
fair.
Tea.
yes, and the silk mohair held together.
mm.
Yeah.
Very nice.
That must be lovely. So soft and warm.
Yes.
We'll
And
include
Mm.
all the notes down below, everyone. If
Mhm.
you're watching this and you're curious about the yarn, we'll get all the details and we'll put it down in the comments.
Mhm. Thank you so
So
much for
that's-
showing us.
thank you.
So should we go ahead with the funny questions?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring the designers up too, so we can
Mhm.
all laugh together. I'm having a feeling as we film this, when Lotta's talking, she's like this voice that's
Maybe.
just talking and we won't actually see her. So I want to bring everyone forward when you were conversing with your test knitter. So let's ask the funny questions to our test knitters.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. We'll start with Gwen. If you're a stitch or a knitting technique, which one would you be?
I would be color work because I love all the colors. I don't do beige and white, and that's not for me. Although I do knit a gray one right now, but yes, all the colors. Color work for me.
Okay. Ulrike?
Oh, that's hard question. I love color works. And I love to learn new stitches. And that I did with Lotta's sweater, the lateral braid.
Mm.
And that was very fun.
Lovely. All right, next question. What is your stitch arch nemesis or the villain in your knitting story? Gwen?
I don't really have one.
Fair.
I just
That's lovely.
I just go and try it and see where it takes me. I haven't met one yet.
Okie dokie. How about you, Ulrike?
Mine is, I'm knitting a lot of socks, but the short row heels,
Mm.
I never
I have to agree with you on that one. I don't like short row heels either. I'm a gusset heel girl.
It's scaring every time.
Oh.
So that's, yeah. Brioche, I tried, but I say as Lotta, when I drop, I just give up.
We need a support group.
All right, last question. What would you consider to be your knitting superpower? Gwen?
Just trying new things
That's
with
great.
no God, how do you say this? No fear. Just go for it and see where it takes you. And
Love
if it's wrong or stupid or ugly, just rip it out and try again.
Yeah, love that attitude. That's great. All right, what about you? What's your knitting power?
I must say it's the same, because that's how I started knitting, just by go and trial, and then go on, not being afraid of trying new things.
Yeah.
Just jump into it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Even if it looks scary, just do it.
Yeah, just do it. Exactly.
Mm.
And we can, if there's a problem, we can rip it out and start again, you know? So
It's
Yes.
only yarn. Mm.
Yes, it's only yarn.
Mm.
A dear yarn.
well, thank you all for joining us today for a conversation around Neons and Neutrals designs, Klänge and Stries. We are hoping to be posting more regular conversations here on my YouTube channel, Amy's Knit Lab. So until then, bon tricot, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
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 Okay, I'm going to stop recording.